Hi everyone, now we are going to start with the second part of chapter number 1 of power sharing, that is, why is power sharing desirable for democracy? Let's go! So why is power sharing desirable for democracy? There are two types of reasons as to why the power sharing is desirable. That is, first is the prudential reason and second is moral reasons. Okay. So prudential reasons are those reasons which stresses that power sharing will bring out better outcomes, that the result will be a better outcome in the end. And moral reasons talks about, it emphasizes the very act of power sharing as valuable, that this act of power sharing is valuable, it is important and should happen every time. Okay. So the power sharing is desirable for democracy by two reasons, that is prudential and moral reasons. Let's start with one by one with each reason. Okay. First one is prudential reasons. Power sharing is good because it helps to reduce the possibility of conflict between social groups. So why it is good? It is good because it helps to reduce the possibility of conflict between social groups. And since social conflict often leads to violence and political instability, power sharing is a good way to ensure stability of political order. So it is important. Why? To ensure the stability of political order. So prudential reasons, we have talked about that it reduces the possibility of conflict within the social groups and everything. Then second, that there are times when the social conflict may lead to violence and other political instability. So in that time, power sharing is a good way to ensure stability of political order. The second point is that it ensures the stability of political order. Prudential reasons, it reduces the possibility of conflict and ensures stability of political order. Okay. Then moral reasons. In moral reasons, power sharing is valuable because it is the spirit of democracy. People have right to be consulted on how they are to be governed. A legitimate government is one where citizens, through participation, acquire a stake in the system. So power sharing is valuable because it is the spirit of democracy. This word is important. We have read it before as well, that power sharing is important because it ensures the spirit of democracy and people have the right to be consulted on how they are to be governed. They have the right to be consulted on how they wanted to be governed. Okay. A legitimate government is one where citizens through participation acquire a stake in their system. It is basically means that moral reasons include that power sharing is valuable because it is the spirit of democracy, and in this citizens have their stake in the system. They have their right to be consulted on how they wanted to be governed, how they want their things to be. So this is how that people have the right to be consulted and it ensures the spirit of democracy. Okay. Going on, the principles of democracy. It is very important to know what are the principles of democracy which led to power sharing as well. Okay. People are sources of all political power. Firstly, people are sources of all political power. Second, they rule themselves through institutions of self-governance. Respect is given to diverse groups and views that existed in a society. Everybody has equal share in shaping the public policies. So people are sources of all the political power. People are very important and they have all the political power that is involved. That is what are the principles of democracy, that people have all the sources of political power. Second, that they rule themselves through institution of self-governance, that they rule themselves with the help of self-governance. And respect is given to the diverse groups and views that exist in the society. Into diverse groups, and everybody has equal share in shaping public policy. They have equal share. Everyone have equal share in shaping public policy. These four are very important. We must understand it very clearly that these are the principles of democracy. People are the sources of political power. They rule themselves through institutions of self-governance. Respect is given to all diverse groups and views that exist in the society. Everybody has equal share in shaping public policies. Now we are going to deal with the four forms of power sharing in modern democracy. There are four forms through which power sharing has been done in modern democracies. Number one is horizontal power sharing, that is, power is shared among different organs of the government, which is mentioned here, that is shared among different organs of the government. That is known as horizontal. Then second is vertical or federal form of power sharing. In this, power is shared among government at different levels. Okay, so it is at different levels. This is federal or vertical form of government. Now the power is shared among different social groups in different, on the basis of religion or language. Many social groups have been created, so power is shared among different social groups. This is among different social groups. And last is power shared among different political parties, pressure groups and movements. So power which is shared among different political parties, pressure groups and movement. This is the fourth form of power sharing. Alright, now we are going to deal with every form of power sharing individually. Okay, this is the horizontal, this is vertical among different social groups, and pressure groups and movements and political parties. Okay, let's go. Horizontal sharing, that it allows different organs of the government placed at same level to exercise different powers, basically at same level. This is the way that horizontally they are being constructed, this at the same level: legislative, executive and judiciary. The Indian form of government, which has legislative, executive and judiciary as different organs of the government at same level, having different powers. This is known as horizontal sharing. Such a separation ensures that none of the organs can exercise unlimited power. None of them can exercise unlimited power. None. Alright, can exercise unlimited power. Each organ checks the other. This results in the balance of power. We have read before as well that legislature, executive and judiciary keep a check on each other so that they are able to maintain balance of power within the government through various institutions. This arrangement is known as the system of checks and balances. Okay, so horizontal sharing, different organs of the government में sharing होती है, which are at the same level with different powers, legislative, executive and judiciary. Okay, so such separation ensures that the organs cannot, any organ cannot exercise unlimited power at each other, and all of them can keep a check on each other in such a way that balance of power is maintained, and this system is known as the system of checks and balances. Moving ahead, vertical sharing. The power is shared among different levels of the government. It is shared among different levels. A general government for entire country and governments at provisional or regional levels. So this general government is for the entire country, and this government is at the provisional or regional levels. In India, we refer to it as central or union government, while the provisional governments are state governments. Alright, this is called a federal division of power. This is not known as federal division of power or also the vertical form of sharing. The same principle can be extended to levels of government lower than the state government, and such of them it is known as municipality and panchayats, like this, municipality, panchayat. So when power is shared among different levels of the government, like general government level, that is we also in India we refer it as central or union government. Then the state level, that is provisional or regional level, we call it as state governments. So this division at different levels that occur is known as federal division of power or vertical sharing. Okay, below state government we also have local governments, local government level, that includes municipality and panchayats. All right, this is the figure through which we can understand it properly, that the central government, the state government, then municipalities and gram panchayat, these are the local government levels. All right, this is central, this is the state level. So that's how the vertical sharing is occurring. Now going ahead at the third form of power sharing, that is social groups. This is the third one. Power may also be shared among different social groups such as the religious and linguistic groups. Alright, This type of arrangement is meant to give space in the government and administration to diverse social groups who otherwise would feel alienated from the government. Alright, so what does it mean? It means that power is shared among different social groups which are created on the basis of either religion or language or any other particular way. This type of government is meant to give space in the government and administration to diverse social groups. Otherwise, if they are being ignored, they might feel alienated, as it was happening in the case of Sri Lanka, where Tamils were feeling alienated. Alright, so these groups are created which include on the basis of religion or language with diverse social groups. This is a method to use to give minority communities a fair share in the power. This is used through which minority communities can have a fair share, can have a almost equal position in power or in the distribution of power. Alright, moving ahead, that is our fourth form of power sharing, that is political parties, pressure groups and movements. Alright, in a democracy, citizens must have freedom to choose among various contenders for power. Power is shared among different political parties that represent different ideologies and social groups. Alright, so in democracy, every citizen has a power, has a freedom to choose among various contenders of power. One can choose any individual who is being a contender for power or as a representative of that area. Alright, we have the power, every citizen has their power to choose among them, among the contenders for power. So power is shared among different political parties. It may be shared from different political parties. For example, in Indian case, we have BJP, Congress, alright, with different ideologies and social groups. So that's how every citizen have their own freedom to choose among various contenders, among various political parties and representatives of the contender they like to be their representative. Alright, so power is shared among different political parties. Citizens have the freedom to choose, shared among different political parties, that represent different ideologies and social groups. See, this is BJP, Congress, alright, like this. Now going ahead at pressure groups. This is a very important term and we must understand it very carefully right now only. So pressure groups are the group of people who are organized actively for promoting and defending their common interest. So a pressure group may have one particular one or more aim or their purpose through which they have to defend or promote it. Alright, so influence of interest group, businessman, industrialists, farmers and industrial group workers, political parties, pressure groups and movement influence those in power. Okay, so it has been influenced by several interest groups, by businessmen, by industrialists, farmers, industrial workers. Political parties, pressure groups and movements influence those in power. So the people who are in power are being influenced by political parties, pressure groups and the movements which are initiated or created by the people who want some change. So pressure groups is basically a group of those people who are organized actively for promoting a particular interest or particular aim or purpose of them that they wanted to promote or defend. Alright, so through this platform, through the platform of pressure groups, they promote or defend it in the public. This is known as pressure groups. Now going ahead at the questions. Question number 1, that is, what are the 4 different types of power sharing in modern democracy? Can you think of any example for each? I have written here, as we can see, there are 4 different types of power sharing, that is horizontal, vertical, social groups and political parties. Alright, in horizontal case, as we have studied before as well, the power is shared among different organs of the government which are at the same level. Different organs of the government like a legislature, executive, judiciary. If we take an example of India, we have 3 organs of the government, that is legislature, executive and judiciary, where the powers is being shared like this, they are at the same level. However, may have different powers as well. Each organ keeps a check on each other in such a way that the balance of power is maintained and This system of arrangement is known as checks and balance system. Alright, this is known as horizontal power sharing method. Now going ahead at the vertical method, in which the power is shared at different levels of the government: central government, state government, local government. Alright, if we take an example of India only, Indian Union government, we will realize that there are around 3 levels of the government, that is central at the national level, which include affairs of national importance or international affairs or financial interest related subjects. But in the state level, we have domestic issues related to any particular state or within the state. All right, and then we have local government, which includes panchayat and municipalities and issues among to a particular village or particular area at the local government. So that's how vertical power sharing is done. An example is Indian Union government. Going ahead, the third form of power sharing, that is social groups. Here, there's social groups in which the division is occurred or differentiation is occurred on the basis of the religious and linguistic lines. So the different social groups are created on the basis of religion or language. Let's take an example in Belgium, where community government was created, right? In which different communities would create a different community government at their level, whether it would be Dutch speaking, French speaking or German speaking people. Okay, and this fourth form of government, the fourth form of power sharing is political parties, pressure groups or movements. I have summed it up as political parties. All right, so in this, different ideological groups occurred and they form different parties. So for example, we take an example of Congress, BJP, CPI. All right, these are examples of, like, BJP is rightist, Congress is centrist sort of a party inclining toward little bit left, and then we have CPI as leftist party. All right, so political parties, movement or pressure groups which have any particular aim, particular ideology or particular any common interest which led them to initiate that party or initiate that movement or pressure group. So that's how there are 4 types of power sharing: horizontal, vertical, social groups and political parties, in which power is shared like in horizontal it is shared in different organs, in vertical it is shared at different levels, in social groups it's based on religion and linguistic lines, in political parties, pressure groups and movement it's based on different ideologies or common interest. Examples of each is that in horizontal, takes an example of India, we have legislature, executive and judiciary there as different organs of the government. At vertical, in Indian Union government, we have central government, state government and then the local government including municipalities and panchayats. Alright, different social groups. Let's take an example of Belgium, their community government of different communities. Belgium, we have Dutch, French or German speaking community governments. Then political parties, let's take an example of Indian Congress party and BJP. These all are parties or parties with different ideologies and different common interests. All right, so these are the types of power sharing in modern democracy. Question number 2, while Belgium and Sri Lanka both have diverse ethnic composition, what are the differences? What are the differences between the power sharing in Belgium and Sri Lanka? Alright, now talking about the first one, that is the type of government. In Belgium, we transformed from a unitary to a federal form of government after several amendments that occurred. Alright, we have studied before as well. So in Belgium, they had a federal form of government. In Sri Lanka, they have a unitary form of government in which the national government, which was headed by Sinhala speaking people, they dominated the government and the country and suppressed the minorities, Tamil speaking people. Alright, so that's how the type of religions of Dutch, French or German speaking people would be respected and were given representation within the government at different levels. But in Sri Lanka, the Sinhalese people realized that the only way was by making majority measures within the government in such a way that Sinhalese would be having majority and will be suppressing the interest and the views of Tamilians. Alright, so what they did, they made it arrangement in such a way that Sinhala people that the Buddhism would be fostered and protected by the people, and other religion and other cultures will be neglected in such a way that the Tamilians were feeling alienated by the reforms that were created by the majority measures which were created by the Sinhala community. Alright, and the third one was language and government. Same, Belgian leaders were accommodating and respecting the differences and interests in terms of language, religion, culture of different communities, even maintaining the community government. But in Sri Lanka, it was not the case. The Sinhalese people were in majority, Sinhala speaking people basically, and the Tamil language was being neglected or was in minority. So the people who used to, Sinhala was considered as the official language as well by the Sinhala community in terms of their majoritarian measures. The Sinhala people were given special treatment in terms of jobs and employment opportunities in comparison to the Tamils. This all led to feel what? Tamilians to be feeling neglected, and they were feeling alienated. And in the end, what happened? In the end, it led to a civil strife of a condition, civil war sort of a condition in Sri Lanka. So the result were totally different in Belgium and Sri Lanka. Accommodation occurred in Belgium. Sri Lanka had majoritarian measures. Belgium leaders avoided any form of civil strife or possible division, but Sri Lanka, they were not able to avoid. This led to distrust in Tamils because of all the majoritarian measures which were taken by the Sinhala people, and in the end, civil war occurred. Led to thousands of people dying and a lot of chaos in the country. So that's how both the countries were having diverse ethnic composition, and there were differences in power sharing in terms of type of government, in terms of religion and language. Alright, next question. What are the prudential and moral reasons for power sharing? Can you give an example of each in the Indian context? So, first, there are prudential reasons, which reducing the conflict, maintaining social harmony. So, these are the basis of prudential reasons, that they reduce the conflict and maintain social harmony within the country or within that particular government. Its example would be the reservation of SCs and STs, so that the reservation should be given to the weaker sections in such a way that it could reduce the conflict which was arising between both the different communities and could introduce to peace and harmony within the country. In terms of moral reasons, main outcome should be positive. Moral reasons are those reasons in which it will lead to better outcomes. It upholds the spirit of democracy. Citizens have stake in the government. So why it leads to better outcomes? Because it upholds the spirit of democracy, the basic spirit of democracy, and the citizens have their stake in the governance. They have their own role, and they could be consulted in terms of the way they want to be governed. For example, Indians can come together to criticize the government. If they don't like something, they want some changes in the constitution, in the government, in the procedure, Indians have the right or the freedom of expression in terms, or even have the right to go to the court and file a complaint against whatever they file injustice to them, right? So this is how they can have their own stake in the governance. They can even be consulted for however the way they want to be governed. So these are prudential reasons. Moral reasons, it reduces conflict, maintains social harmony. Moral reasons, they are leading to better outcomes. They uphold spirit of democracy. Citizens have their own stake in the governance. Prudential reasons, example could be the reservation of SCs, STs, weaker communities and minorities. Moral reasons is example is India can together come to criticize the government. So they have freedom of expression in terms of in every sort of a way. Alright. So we have done with the questions. Now in the next video we will have a quick revision of what we have learned in the power sharing. For now, thank you so much for being with me at Study Room. We'll see you at the next video. Bye bye.